You know what quiet burnout looks like from the outside? Nothing. That is the whole problem. The leader shows up. Every meeting, every deadline, every town hall, they answer their emails, they smile, they say the right things. And somewhere underneath all that doing, the lights are going out. Quietly, slowly, one small withdrawal at a time. I'm Sahar, a neuroscience-based leadership consultant, Forbes Coach Council member, and I have been inside organizations long enough to know this. The leaders HR is most worried about are usually not the ones burning out. It's the ones nobody is watching. Today, at the AI Cafe Conversations podcast, the only podcast intersecting between neuroscience, leadership, and AI, we're talking about quiet burnout. What it actually is in the brain, why your highest performers are the most invisible casualties, and how you detect it before it costs you someone irreplaceable. This is the new episode that could save you a leadership vacancy you never saw coming. Let's go. So what is the problem? Why or what quiet burnout actually is? I mean, in COVID, we started talking about quiet quitting and quiet firing, but now we have quiet burnout or quiet burning. Here is the first thing I need you to let go of. Burnout is not exhaustion. I know that is what we keep saying. That is what every wellness program leads with. Rest more, manage your stress, take a vacation, work-life balance. But the brain tells you a completely different story. Burnout is a nervous system event. A quiet burnout is specifically what happens when the nervous system has been in chronic threat mode for so long that it stops broadcasting distress signals altogether. Let me explain what that means. Your nervous system has three states. Think of it as a traffic light. Green is social engagement. Your prefrontal cortex is online. You can think clearly. You make good decisions. You can read a room. You have empathy. You are your best leadership self. 2, yellow is mobilization. That is your fight or flight response. Cortisol and adrenaline flooded. Heart rate goes up. Tunnel vision kicks in. Your brain narrows its focus to immediate threat. You can still function, but your creativity is gone. Your curiosity is gone. You're surviving, not leading. Then red. Red is shutdown. This is where quiet burnout lives. Shutdown is the dorsal vagal state. It's the oldest survival response in the nervous system. When threat is too much, too prolonged, or too inescapable, the brain does not keep screaming. It goes quiet. It conserves energy. It disconnects from the emotional cost of the environment. From the outside, a person in shutdown looks calm, composed, steady. Because they were trained by success itself to push through, to hold it together, to perform regardless of what is happening internally. Their whole career is proof that they can manage themselves under pressure. So when the nervous system finally crosses into shutdown, they do not come to HR. They do not go to HR. They do not raise their hand. They do not say, I'm not okay. They just get quieter. They stop bringing new ideas. They start declining invitations. Their answers in meetings get shorter, more careful, less depth. I want to tell you about a leader I worked with. I'm going to protect her privacy, so I will not use her name or organization, but the situation is real. She was a senior director, 16 years in the organization, the person everyone called when something was hard. The one with institutional knowledge nobody could replicate. Her team had some of the highest retention numbers in the company. When I first got on a call with her, she sounded fine, calm, professional, thoughtful in her answers. It took about 20 minutes before I noticed something. She was not frustrated. She was not overwhelmed. She was not even sad in a way you could name. She was absent. She was answering my questions from a very far away place inside herself. When I reflected that back to her, she went quiet for a long time. And then she said something I will never forget. She said, I stopped caring 6 months ago. I stopped caring 6 months ago. And I haven't told anyone because I don't know how to explain caring about something than just not. Her nervous system had done exactly what it was designed to do. It had protected her by going offline. She had not left the job yet, but she had already left. That is quiet burnout. And from the outside, until that day, nobody knew. Now, here is the neuroscience of why this is so dangerous for organizations. When the dorsal vagal state takes over, a few specific things happen in the brain that have direct leadership consequences. First, the default mode network starts dominating. This is the brain network that activates when you are not actively engaged. It's the mind-wandering state. And in burnout, it takes over when the person is physically present and technically working. They are in the room, but their neural resources are not. Second, neuroplasticity slows down. New neural connections require two things: energy and positive emotional state. Burnout depletes both, which means a burned out leader stops growing. Not because they're lazy, because their brain literally cannot form the new connections that growth requires. Third, co-regulation breaks down. This is the piece HR almost never talks about. Your nervous system regulates the nervous systems around it. Leaders who are dysregulated create dysregulated teams, not through bad management, through biology. The leader is the thermostat of the team, not the thermometer. Research out of polyvagal theory shows that teams working under dysregulated leaders have measurably higher cortisol levels. That means higher stress. Not metaphorically higher, biologically, biochemically higher. So when your senior director goes into quiet shutdown, her team's nervous system pick up the signal and they start protecting themselves too. One leader in quiet burnout can shift the nervous system climate of an entire department silently. That is the cost nobody is measuring. 56% of leaders reported burnout in 2024. 4 in 10 consider quitting just to escape. And the ones who stay in shutdown, showing up, looking fine, performing on autopilot, they are not in those numbers. They never get counted. They eventually just disappear. So let's talk about the detective or the detection protocol. So what do you actually do with this? If quiet burnout is invisible by design, if your highest performers are the ones most likely to hide it, if the person you most need to retain is the one least likely to ask for help, how do you see it? I'm going to walk you through a 3-step detection protocol. This is not a wellness survey. It's not a pulse check with a 4-question form that everyone fills out and nobody reads, but everybody feels happy. This is a framework built on what the nervous system actually signals before someone disappears. We're going to track behavioral delta, not performance metrics. because performance metrics will lie to you. A person in quiet burnout often maintains their output for months, sometimes longer. They are high performers. They know how to hold the line. The numbers look fine right up until the resignation letter lands on your desk. What does not stay constant is behavior. There is a specific cluster of behavioral changes that signal nervous system withdrawal, and they are not the changes you are trained to look for. So here is what you're looking for. 1, change in contribution pattern, not whether the person is contributing, but how. A leader in quiet burnout shifts from generative to reactive. They stop bringing new ideas into conversations. They start responding to other people's ideas instead of originating. They're still in the meeting, but they are no longer in the meetings as themselves. This one is subtle. You have to know what someone's baseline looks like to catch it, which is why this requires you to actually pay attention to individuals over time, not just performance cycles. ABC, a good leader, right? 2, change in language. Listen for future tense disappearance. A leader who says, when we launch next quarter, has a future in this organization inside the nervous system. A leader who starts saying, whether the team decides or I will leave that to others, has stopped projecting themselves forward. Burned out nervous system pulled back from the future. They stop planning. They stop owning outcomes that are 3 months away because the brain in shutdown cannot afford to care that far ahead. The shift in language is one of the most accurate early signals I know. 3, change in relationship behavior, not performance relationships quality. High performers in quiet burnout often maintain professional relationships on the surface. They're still polite, still responsive, but watch for these. They stop initiating. They stop having the casual conversations. They stop being the person who checks in on someone. The warmth leaves the relationship while the form stays in place. When a high connector leader goes quiet on relationships, their nervous system has started protecting its energy reserves. What this means practically for HR leaders. You need to have a baseline on your key people, not their performance baseline, their behavioral baseline. Who are they when they are well? How do they show up in meetings? What does the language sound like? How do they relate to their teams? You cannot detect delta without a baseline. And most organizations have no behavioral baseline on their senior leaders at all. This has become so evident after the AI adoption, AI integration, and the AI disruptions in many organizations, and the FOMO, the fear of becoming obsolete, the fear of losing their job, the fear of looking stupid, not understanding what's going on, and still trying to approve the plans. All these have been increasing in the workplace, and that's why we are seeing a higher rate of burnout. So the one-on-one is the most underused detection tool in the HR toolkit. Most one-on-ones are project updates, priority alignment, or annual performance, problem solving, which means you are getting the professional performance of the person, not the person. Here is how to shift the one-on-one into a nervous system read. Start with a body question, not a task questions, like not what's on your plate, but how are you carrying what's on your plate? That one word change, carrying, invites the body into the conversation. The body is where burnout actually lives. The task question gets you the professional answer. The carrying question opens a different door. Listen for energy, not just information. A burned out nervous system communicates before the words do. Pace slows. Sentences shorten. There is a flatness in the voice that does not match what is being said. You're listening for the gap between the content of what they are saying and the energy with which they are saying it. When someone says everything is fine, I'm just managing a lot with no effect, no emotional texture, no exhale at the end, this is data. That is not fine. Ask the question that creates permission. This is the most important one. Burned out leaders do not raise their hand because they do not believe the organization has the capacity to hold what they are actually experiencing. They have watched other people be vulnerable, and they have watched what happened next. You create permission by going first, not in a therapy way, in a human way. I have noticed that our last few conversations have felt a little different. I could be reading it wrong, but I wanted to name it because you matter to this organization, and I don't want to miss something important. That one sentence does something specific in the nervous system. It names what is happening without demanding a response. It signals that someone is paying attention, that that person is seen, and it reduces the threat of disclosure. The nervous system will not open in high threat environment. When you go first, you lower the threat. You create the conditions where honesty becomes possible. That is not soft leadership. That is applied neuroscience. Audit the environment, not just the person. Here is the step most organizations completely skip. When you find the leader in quiet burnout, the impulse is to fix the leader. More coaching, more support, mental health resource, a leave policy, blah, 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 blah. And those things matter. But if the environment that burned them out is still running exactly the same way, you're not solving a problem. You're cycling through leaders. The CARES framework is what I use here. It asks 5 questions about people, about safety, about dignity. Are people informed? Not about strategy, about what is actually expected of them as human beings in this organization. Is there accountability? When a leader burns out, who is accountable? Not just the leader, but the system around them. Is respect present? Is human capacity treated as a resource to be managed or a boundary to be honored? Is the organization effective for people, not just from people? And finally, is it psychologically safe? Here is the neuroscience of that last one. Psychological safety is not cultural value. It's not something that you write on the wall or on a website, glitzy words. It's an emotion that they need to feel. It's a neurological requirement. When psychological safety is low, the amygdala, the threat center of the brain, runs continuous threat scans. It's looking for danger in every interaction. This is metabolically expensive, while over time, it's physically depleting. Leaders who operate in low psychological safety environments burn out faster, and they burn out quietly. Because in a low safety environment, you cannot afford to be seen burning out. The environment audit asks, what are we doing at the systems level that make recovery impossible when people want to recover? That is the CARES question, and it belongs in every burnout conversation. If your best leaders are in quiet burnout right now, a well-being survey will not catch it. A performance review will not catch it. What catches it is a human being in a one-on-one, paying attention to behavioral delta, using language that creates safety, and then asking the organization to look in the mirror at the same time. Let me bring this home. Quiet burnout is not a wellness problem. It's a nervous system problem, and it's an organizational design problem, and it is a detection problem. Your best people are the ones most trained to hide it, the ones who will perform through it, who will protect everyone around them from knowing how depleted they actually are. And the cost is not just looking at one leader or losing one leader. It's what happens to every nervous system that person has been co-regulating for years. It's the team that goes quiet after she leaves. It's the institutional knowledge that walks out with her. It's the vacancy that never fully gets filled. The three things I want you to take from this episode: 1, build the behavior baseline on your key leaders, not performance, behavior. Know who they are when they are well. 2, redesign your one-on-ones. Start with the body question. Listen for the energy, not just the words. Create permission by going first. 3, audit the environment. The CARES framework gives you the 5 questions that make the system accountable, not just the individual. You do not have to wait until someone resigns to know something was wrong. The signals were there. We just need to know how to read them. If you want to talk about this, what this looks like in your organization, I have 30 minutes, free conversation, no pitch, no agenda, just clarity. The link is in the description notes. It's the Leadership Clarity Call. I have the link down. And if this episode landed, share it with one HR leader who needs to hear it. That's the ask. Until next week, keep leading from a regulated place. And as usual, before we leave, I ask you to show me some love. Save this episode, share it, subscribe to our podcast. Thank you for making us the number 2 on the top global podcast. This is Sahar Andrade, your AI whisperer. Till we meet again, peace out.